Here are 3 reasons why I believe in God. Number 1, the Big Bang. When we think about the Big Bang, we may conclude that the universe had a beginning. That's one of the tenets of the Big Bang Theory, that the universe had a beginning. And so if the universe had a beginning, it means that the universe did not exist for an infinite amount of time and was always in existence. It was brought into existence at some point, which means that there was a pre-beginning. And whatever it was that generated the power to produce the Big Bang, whatever it was that was outside of time, space, and reality itself, because those things came into existence after the Big Bang, whatever it was, it would have had to have been otherworldly, immensely powerful. And we are sentient, human beings, we are sentient, and other animals are sentient too. We're alive, we exist, we have feelings, we have emotions, we have thoughts. If this pre-beginning thing, which is immensely powerful, outside of time, space, and reality itself, and if it had sentience, it's basically God. That's basically what God is. He's a being that's sentient, that's outside of time, space, and reality, and immensely powerful. And we're talking about immense power here because the power that generated the Big Bang, however it emerged, creates all of reality that we see today. So that's one way of looking at it. That if you have a Big Bang, you have what is called a beginning point, and then that means there is a pre-beginning, and that pre-beginning, God was there. That's what God is, and we can identify possibilities based on deduction. Okay, if time, space, and reality came into existence after the Big Bang, then whatever it was is outside of time, space, and reality, which means it is a otherworldly, immensely powerful, immensely different and unique thing. And I would say that God is the best explanation for that, because it's basically God when you add sentience to it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the Cambrian explosion. So in the evolutionary model, you go from simple celled organisms and it gets more and more complex until you get human beings, right? So what the Cambrian explosion shows is that even at the lowest levels of development, things were incredibly complex. And if they're incredibly complex, it's almost like an explosion of progress occurs. It's not a sort of a small incremental process, but all of a sudden at the Cambrian level you have fully formed organisms. And so another way to explain it would be like this: man is killing each other and pillaging and running around doing his thing, and then all of a sudden you reach a point where it goes, oh boom, let's build a pyramid. That sort of expresses what the Cambrian explosion is. You have this huge spike all of a sudden in progress, and that doesn't fit a millions and millions and billions of years evolutionary model. And in fact, it's a sort of a blip within the evolutionary system where you go from single-celled organism to boom, all of a sudden immense, intelligent, and fully formed creatures. So you have that as well. And finally, number 3, the reason why I believe in God is because if bad things in the world make you doubt that there is a God, because God is all good, if bad things in the world make you doubt that there is a God, then couldn't good things in the world also make you reflect that there could be a God? Because one of the arguments against God is that if God is good and if God exists, why is there so much evil in the world? But another way of looking at it could be, well, there's also good in the world, and maybe there is a God in the world that is good because of the good we see in the world. But I understand there's a polarity, there's evil and there's good, so which means that there's conflicting forces in the world, because where I'm in New Zealand and I have it good, a lot of people have it good, and a lot of people suffering as well, I acknowledge that, but there seems to be a polarity. There's a duality in existence, and there are bad things and there are good things. So if you just focused on the bad things, you would conclude that, oh, how can there be a God in this world, and how would he allow it? But if you looked at the good things, you could then say, well, maybe there is benevolence in the world. But the conclusion always is there's a clash between good and evil, right and wrong, right? And so Jesus Christ comes in just, right in the, they call him the man who divided time, right? Because when Jesus comes, then you have BC and then you have AD, right? So he's the man, he's the center, he comes into this world, and Christianity is the only religion that claims that Jesus Christ is God incarnate, the true and living God incarnate, that he is divine and so on and so forth. And I think that's fair, if we're going to live in this world of suffering, and God is to understand what we're going through and to meet us where we are, then it's only fair that he come into our level and experience the human condition, and sympathize with the human condition. And after Jesus Christ, you have this big explosion, in almost like a Cambrian explosion, almost like a Big Bang, if you will, but you have an explosion in morals, that undermine the current structure of that day, which was the Roman Empire, which was very brutal. They had slaves, and it was survival of the fittest mentality, and there was a lot of temple prostitution, and it was a brutal empire. It was a survival of the fittest empire. It was conquest made right. And then you have Jesus come along with the cross, right? The cross is supposed to be a symbol of Roman oppression, and that becomes a symbol of victory over oppression. The very cross that is used to humiliate people becomes the symbol of hope for people. And so you have this huge shift in conscience when Jesus comes on the scene and teaches his teachings, and is a moral teacher and is the Lord. Huge shift in thinking, Now people are loving their neighbors as they would themselves. People are turning the other cheek. People are going the extra mile. So as a moral system, Christianity underpins everything in the West, in Western Judeo-Christian civilization, and even influences Islamic civilization as well, because they claim to borrow some stuff too, But so it's a Judeo-Christian civilization that emerges, that gives us the liberal morals that we so love today, For example, the woman caught in adultery, right? Stone her, they say, but Jesus says, he that is without sin, cast the first stone. So we have the implementation of mercy as a component, mercy and non-hypocrisy as a component for this new kingdom to emerge. And then you have the disciples as they are gathered in the upper room, and all the money is given to them, because people are so thankful for what they're doing. They then start redistributing the wealth that they have, and it says all the believers had everything in common. So, and each one had according to their need, and no one lacked, So that's a system where if money goes to the top, it's immediately distributed to everyone at the bottom and to everyone equally, And that's an egalitarian system. That's equality. So you have justice, or you have mercy, with the woman who's caught in adultery. You have non-hypocrisy. You have equality being emerged. And let's just say that the Roman society was very hierarchical, had slaves, was not an equal system, But Christianity contributed to the new morals of the era. Compassion, love, equality, and those sort of things too, And Jesus, there's a big shift from the conquest epic to the compassion, the compassion story, So that's all I have to say. But those were the three things, right? Big Bang, Cambrian explosion, and the moral religious explosion of Christianity are three things why I absolutely love Christianity and believe in God. And you should too. Give it a try. Pascal's wager, right? What do you lose? Give it a try. Thank you.